Okay, so be aware. You're being recorded. Please, if you could, just mute yourselves when you're not speaking, because it really minimizes the background noise. I want to repeat the purpose and scope of this project is to discuss services and service levels with the residents, engage the residents, and to ultimately establish a boundary if there were a future incorporation study to proceed as a subsequent step. I want to just put out a couple of agenda amendments before we approve the agenda. And so our agenda, first off, is approval of the agenda, then discussion of proposed option E. Next, a brief overview of a communications and marketing plan put forward by Mylene. Next is next meetings, which will be June 15th and June 21. And last, notice that there are members of the public here, and we always try to provide room for public comment at the end. I want to stress, however, my belief is that the primary purpose of this meeting to select and really define what option E is. Last point, sorry, timing. We're going to try to, we want to hear from everybody, but we did find, I think last time, that the suggestion of 2 minutes to a presentation or comment or question was helpful. Kay did that last time and has offered to do it again this time. Correct, Kay? Yep, okay. Okay, so with that in mind, can I, sorry, I'm just letting somebody else in here. Could I take a motion to accept the agenda with the addition of communications and marketing, next meetings, and public input? Made by Kay, seconded by Kurt. Okay, any further discussion on that? Seeing or hearing none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor say aye, or raise your hand. Okay, I'm going to declare that carried. And John, I appreciate you voting. I think the way this committee is structured, the committee members are the voting members. So I just clarifying that for your benefit and for any others newcomers to this process. Okay, so we're into the first item, which is discussion of option E, boundaries. Kay and I worked out a brief outline of the issues and the discussion that we'd had with staff and consultants. I forgot, Tuesday. The short piece out of that really was it was a productive meeting, positive meeting, and that there was, I think, general agreement to proceed with including an option E in the survey and the background document, acknowledging that that would require a further extension beyond what was already contemplated to, I think, August 31. In all likelihood, there would be no budget implications. But it was contingent in large part on this committee actually defining what they meant in option E in terms of all residences or all residential properties. Okay. So, Kay, did you want to add anything to that? You're moving around here on my screen. So, okay, there you are, Kay. If you'd like to go ahead, any further comments?
Yes. So I went back and I listened to the recording. I watched it again and I listened to the motion that was seconded, and it said, and then it was amended to add in the words "in survey." So the piece is all residential areas in area D. What became apparent is when we saw a map of the entirety of Area D, is if no one else had seen that map with the residences, would not necessarily have realized that some of the residences are potentially in Crown land and may have a tenure or a lease. And I know I had not taken that into consideration. So the suggestion was we needed to take it back to the committee. That was a suggestion that came out of the committee, so that we were all on the same page of what we meant by residential areas in Area D. So that was how this came about.
Yeah. Thanks, Kay. So do we want to have some discussion? And then if it's helpful, I can put the map that we've received up on the screen. I think, Kurt, you were trying to say something?
Yeah, we could really just simplify it. If you're able to vote, you're on the voters list, you're covered under Area D, you need to be considered. I mean, so yeah, sure, some people have tenures and leased property on Crown land. That would be Allendale Lake area, I'm assuming. There's a few properties up there and they have an interest. If we're within the boundary, why would we be excluded from the discussion?
Okay.
That's why we're including, and that's why we're having this meeting, to ensure that everybody is perceiving that in the same way, Kurt.
Wonderful.
Okay, Vi, did you have a question?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Is that legal? Is it legal to bring Crown land into a municipality? I don't know, but I would think that Crown land would be excluded, but what do I know? Any thoughts? Do you think can we just say the Crown land isn't Crown land anymore? Now it's within Okanagan Falls, our municipality or our village or town?
Go ahead, Kurt.
It's already included in Area D as Crown land. And I would assume that there's other municipalities and cities within the province that have Crown owned land. It's kind of expansive. I don't really see a reason to include it in the municipality. But at the same time, if you're in Area D and this is a topic of discussion, you should have some input in it. Just a quick question. Where is our consultants and our representative from the RDOS? Are they in attendance?
Christy is or was online, and the consultants both had a previous commitment with another project they're working on this evening.
Is Ron on board?
Yep, Ron's here.
Is he able to address that question in any way?
I am not aware of a limit either way. To my way of thinking, I don't know of any reason why Crown land can't be in a municipality, legally speaking. Christy is legislative service manager, so I would defer to staff and consultant. There are issues that may become relevant. I don't know this either, but when you have a large amount of Crown land within your municipal boundary, my question would be, what's the impact, for example, on something like wildfire? What does that mean? And I don't know the answer. I would think Crown land is under BC wildfire jurisdiction, provincial, and it likely wouldn't matter. There's a lot of Crown land in the province and they catch fire all the time. So somebody probably knows the answer, but I don't.
I think there were other suggestions as well that those broader a broader look at the area, Kurt, would involve some First Nations issues and other things that are associated with Crown lands that would be challenging for a small municipality. And I'm not maybe using the right terminology, but that maybe you get my drift. Okay, Kurt, and then Jim. And Kay, do you have your hand up or down? Up. Okay. All right, Kurt.
I think in the language of this discussion, a lot of the spirit of this discussion can be lost. And in a spirit of inclusiveness, I'd like to see everybody that's living within Area D given the opportunity to have their voice heard and their property included. If there's some real definite reasons for that not to take place, like First Nations object or too much Crown land or something that's beyond our vision right now, can we just rely on the spirit of what we're trying to accomplish rather than the exact verbiage, and then get some consultation from legislative services and from our consultants to really narrow down what we can and cannot include? Maybe that's more effective way than discussing pros and cons without having any true direction tonight.
So I'm going to keep taking the hands up, and then maybe what we'll do is just consider if at the end of that, we can just take a vote. Are we talking whole of area D, or are we looking at something smaller? Ronna, were you speaking to something Kurt was saying? Because I've got Jim and Kate already hands up.
I missed the question, Matt. The dog bark confused me.
Yeah,
Was it what?
she's on the payroll. Do you are you speaking to Kurt's comments, or are you just wishing to speak? Because I also have Kay and Jim
I
who
was
are
gonna
already in
speak
line.
to your comment, Matt, about First Nation issues. OK Falls itself has 75 acres right at the waterfront. That is a major claim of First Nation, real big one. And we have First Nation claims all through the province, many within municipal boundaries. So I don't think the First Nation issue is relevant. And quite frankly, there's nothing we are doing in this boundary and service review or even likely as a municipality that is going to resolve First Nation issues. So it's a little bit of in my thinking, it's likely a misdirection. I don't know how relevant that is. First Nation community interests always need to be respected and considered regardless. I don't think the boundary would change that.
Okay, thank you. Kay and then Jim, and then I'll invite other members of the committee. And if you want to look at maps, I've got draft maps that we can put up on screen. Okay.
I think for all of us, the committee needs to remember that the purpose of adding option E is to have the survey go out and be inclusive from the feedback we've received. So it's not creating a boundary, it's generating the feedback from individuals in Area D about the different boundary options. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's the purpose of the survey. So I think at this point to discuss whether, what the effects of Crown land would have within a municipality may be a premature discussion. I would just suggest that, because right now it's option E, and what is going to be the boundary? Are we clear? Are we all on the same page of what the motion was for? And to put that piece in the survey, the map in the survey.
Okay, thank you, Kate. Next, I have Jim DeAndrea. Jim, take yourself off mute before you talk.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just seem to recall during one of the presentations, and maybe it was the ones with the mayors and others who had gone through incorporation, that there was a discussion there about Crown land, and that British Columbia had, and I'm maybe others can remember better than I, but British Columbia had basically said that you can't be dealing with Crown land because they're the indigenous claim. So, but others may remember better than I, but something sticks in the back of my head about the Crown land. And does anyone remember from that meeting? Because there was a discussion there about it.
I do not. I do remember some discussion about it, but I don't remember the exact point. Okay, Christy.
So the discussion about Crown land, not Crown land. So within regional districts, of course, there's tons of Crown land, and we tax differently, we treat them differently. They are in some service areas, not in others. So as for municipality, I haven't worked in one, so I've only worked in rural. So I'm not going to answer that question tonight because I might give you the wrong info, but definitely the consultants who spend a lot of time in municipalities can answer that. What I would suggest is, for the purposes of meeting the deadline to get the survey out the door in the timelines that we have, the committee might resolve to do the whole thing. You're not setting a boundary tonight. You're simply setting up the framework for the survey. And so I wouldn't expect you to have a huge outcry of people from Crown land that would influence your survey results a whole lot. So I would say to, err on the side of caution, you might consider just putting the whole thing in. And you can always adjust it once you get the data from the survey if you wanted to really streamline that recommendation that will go to the board of directors. That would be my advice.
So then your suggestion from staff would be to look just at whole of area D.
It's more inclusive at this point, and again, you're not setting in stone a recommendation to the board. You're simply preparing to get that survey out the door. And again, you're not going to get a whole bunch of feedback, I wouldn't think, from Crown land, from the province or anything. So I don't think it's going to influence your results either way. But I think you need to make sure that everybody's aware that this is a question that's out there and needs to be addressed by the consultant prior to you making a recommendation to the board.
Okay. Mylene. Hello, Mylene. Mylene struggles with connectivity issues.
I would agree with. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now I can. Yep.
Okay, I was just trying to bring up the point that I agree with all of area D for option E, keeping in mind that there's question 5 and 6, and 5 relates to if your property was not included in A, B, C, or D. Is it because you border one of those? Is it because you're outside and you don't border? And then question 6 would give you the opportunity to say why you would want to be in or out. So I think keeping in mind that there is question 5 and 6 to really relate to these properties that are outside of the borders and out on Crown land, and really getting the feedback of everybody. That's all.
Thank you. Look for comment from Eleanor or David if you wish to weigh in on this.
I was going to bring up the same point that we already had that question in the survey for people who were outside of the boundaries. But if the committee feels that they want to put the whole area in, I have really no objection to it. But I think it would be very difficult to include these lands into the municipality because the connectivity of them to the other areas, there's a lot of area that is kind of dead Crown land that's in between. That's all I have to say at this time.
Okay, thank you. Eleanor, any comments? No, you're still.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
I think given all the sort of ways to express your opinion, whether you want to be included or not included with the various questions, I think we're pretty I'd be pretty comfortable with including all of Area D. We'll find out, as everyone's saying, it's not written in stone, it's collect opinions. And if people have the opinion that, yes, they think it's a good idea to be included, they'll say so or otherwise. But, and then from there, that's what we're trying to find out, in my opinion. So let's find it out.
Okay. All right. We've gone around the table on this. I think I've covered every committee member. Is there any committee member, or ex officio or otherwise, who would like to say anything else on this before we entertain a motion? Okay, I'll accept a motion if somebody wants to make one to the effect that we're including all residents within Area D, or something to that effect, if you want to word it differently.
I'll make a motion. So we're going to include all residents of Area D in the survey. And then to be determined whether they can be a part of the municipality is the responsibility of interpretation of our consultants or legislative services.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Well, first I'll second it so it can have a seconder.
Good.
And then I want to say that I believe that's the exact same motion we already had on the table that we passed last week to include all the residences in Area D. So
Should we
to-
refer it to all people in Area D? That I don't know if they all, well, I don't know if they all qualify to cast a vote if we were doing another election. All residents, I suppose they do if they live within the boundary.
Good. Do we want to perhaps add the word in within the boundary of Area D so that there's no discrepancy? Do we want to add that in, Kurt?
I think that's reasonable.
Okay, so you agree to amend the motion?
I do agree to amend the motion.
Okay.
All right. Amended motion. So we have a motion on the table. Any discussion, comments on it? And just by way of background, we did wind up discussing this, and we were asked by consultants, and I think I certainly wondered myself afterwards, you know, do we literally mean the house at the end of a 5 or 10 kilometer dirt road? So that's, you know, and hey, don't know. So that's why we're back here. Okay. So, and clearly what you're telling us is we mean the guy at the end of a 5 or 10 kilometer road.
Yes.
Okay, good. That was, so just to be clear, that may have been me that was clarifying that point. I've got David and then I've got Eleanor.
What about question 5 and 6 now? We're going to have nobody outside of the boundary anymore.
I believe that the Sherry was working on that to refine it so that if you're outside of options A through D, you would comment on those points.
Okay. Because that'll sound a little funny because everybody's going to be in one of the boundaries.
That's right. That's right. That question needs to be worked, and she's working on it now. Eleanor.
It's good you've answered my question. You're working on the wording right now. Thank you.
Okay. Kay, you're nodding your head. Any further?
No, I was just agreeing with Eleanor that yes, it was being worked on because we still wanted to capture that information from 5 and 6 with respect to options A, B, C, and D.
Okay. So any further discussion? Committee members, ex officio or otherwise? Seeing and hearing none, Christy, I'll get you to reread the motion.
So the motion as I have it is that it's all residential properties within the boundaries of Area D.
And I believe it was refined to the effect that it could be reduced on direction or input from the consultants. Is that correct? No?
Sure, if you want to capture
No?
that part in
Okay,
there.
Kay's shaking her head. I thought that's what you made the amendment on.
No, the amendment I made because the first motion was the same as the word language of the motion last week.
Yeah.
So the amendment I made was just to add in within the boundary of area D.
Good enough. Great.
Not those other pieces. I think that perhaps that's a next
Details.
piece.
Yep, those are actions. Okay. Kurt, you're comfortable with that?
I am.
Okay.
As long as all residents and not all residential properties, we don't want to just be sending residential property owners. Does it not include residents as well? It's just a quick question.
So not all residents would qualify to vote in the end. There are residents who may not be Canadian citizens or meet the other criteria. I think you're safer with residential properties because it encompasses the ownership of each of those. Or you could say residences if you like that better. But I wouldn't say residents because that denotes individuals, and not every individual is entitled to vote.
I see your point. All right.
It's tricky. Okay, so we're looking at residences or residential properties. Okay, you want to read the motion one last time, Christy?
All residents or residential properties, and I would like you to make a decision here within the boundaries of Area D.
Kurt, correct me if I'm wrong, but you did agree, it made sense to you to keep residential properties at this time?
Well, it does make sense to me, but I just can't. It's not sitting well with me. So what happens if a person owns a fourplex and they own that building and they're going to be asked to give some input into this survey? Are the other residents of that residential property included in this? Because they all reside in OK Falls. They all have an address, or maybe it's a basement suite, or maybe it's grandpa and grandma that are living in the carriage house, whatever it is. Are we including those people, or are we only people on title taking their opinion?
Okay,
So
I think-
it's everybody who's eligible to vote. And so that would be the person who owns one and has renters in 3 others.
Perfect. Everybody that's registered to vote is beautiful language. I like that.
Yeah, that's simple. We're trying to put in a different word in there, so, yeah. Okay, so I'm, all right, Vi?
I kind of like residential property because if somebody owns, let's say somebody from Calgary or somebody from Alberta owns a property in Okanagan Falls, they should, I think they should be entitled to vote if they own that piece of property. The fact that they've got a renter in there, I'm not sure that the renter has the right to vote, but I don't know.
Okay.
I prefer residential property.
Let's hear the clarification from Christy.
So they can vote if they don't live there. Their renter can vote if they live there. By saying 2 residences, you might exclude anybody who has bare land property. So residence means a structure in a building. Residential properties means a property, and whether it has a structure or not is irrelevant.
Yeah.
What's the recommended term then, Christy?
Residential properties is my vote, and I don't get to vote. That's
Me
my
too.
recommendation.
Okay. We'll keep doing this until we're comfortable with it. So Christy, can you read the motion? And then I think we're prepared to call the question.
All residential properties within the boundary of Area D.
Okay, everyone clear on the motion? Going to call the question. All those in favor say aye or raise your hand or both. Okay. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain?
We don't abstain.
We don't. Okay,
No.
thank you. All right, I'll declare that motion carried. Thank you. Great. I think we can move on now. What we've got now is the definition that the consultants were looking for prior to finalizing their math and the survey. So my understanding is that they expect to have that done and over to Christy, who will get it posted on the web for the survey. And hopefully that survey would go live May 27th to June 10th. Okay. And then we as a group would meet and hear the initial results of the survey on June 15th. Consultants don't expect that they would necessarily have received all the hard copy survey results, but it would give us an opportunity to really see how the data is presented to us and let us start thinking about, you know, what that data means and what we view as our decision criteria. And we would meet again with the final results on June 21st. And at that point, we would be making a recommendation to as to the boundary option A, B, C, D, or E. And we would also be making a recommendation whether or not we felt that the RDOS should recommend to the province an incorporation study of that area. So that's the timelines moving forward. Question, Ron? Comment, question, go ahead.
Yeah, question. The Golden Hills strata, their AGM is June 11. I spoke with Tony Abbott last week and Patricia Tribe this week. They've asked me to come speak, and I will be there at 10 a.m. on the Saturday, June 11. They also requested somebody from committee or consultant to be there to speak to this matter, and the survey would be a timely topic. June 11 is after June 10, and this is a strata with 16 units, 16, this is a big community, I don't know, 60 acres or something, and they had 6 of those titles change in the last 3 or 4 months, so that's a significant percentage are brand new. They're very keen on getting fire protective service, the people I've talked to, but they can't speak for all the others. So in terms of that feedback, you know, they really want information and to participate, but the deadline may make that a little less convenient. So that's the question. Is that deadline of June 10 hard, or can it be the Monday, the June 12? It's not that big of a change, but you know, a Friday is, in my experience, a few minutes away from a Monday. You know, business time. It's not like a lot happened. Maybe, I don't know, but that's the question.
Okay, I was actually going to raise that date request under the next item, communications and marketing. We can deal with it now. That's fine. You know, I really don't know whether the consultants are permitted to, you know, take input after the closing date or not. Christy, you've maybe gone through this with the RDOS. It's your guys' process. So what do you say?
Well, so the 10th is a Friday. So if we close it at 4:30 on a Friday, nobody's doing the work on the Saturday and Sunday. The electronic ones would be tabulated on the weekends, but I would suspect that if you had them on the Saturday, you probably could sneak them in there just fine. If Sherry starts to process the data prior, I don't think there's going to be so many collected on that Saturday that it's going to create a real hardship, and certainly not for staff in the office who start to play with the data on Monday morning. So I'd say, you know, Saturday, if that one group you want to capture, I think it would be fine. But I would suggest that they either complete a paper one then or zip home and get it done that day. And then that way it's in there by the time we walk in the door Monday morning.
Okay. All right. So moving into communications and marketing. Mylene, you had and I want to say thanks very much, Mylene. You put together a quite detailed plan and number of mock-up posters that could be posted to, a variety of different locations, whether social media or sides of buildings. So thank you. Really sincerely, thank you. That was much appreciated. Did you want to take a few minutes, Mylene, and just summarize your plan for the group here?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Sorry, I got lost the connection completely and it took me a while to get back in, so I missed a little bit. I think my whole thought on this was delivering set information through different media platforms over a series of sequential days would give us the most consistent messaging and best repetition possible to create the survey responses that we're looking for. I do need a little help. I am actually going to be at a wedding in Canmore on May 27th. So I do need some, my nephew's getting married. So I do need some help putting up posters. I know Eleanor had said she would. I have made a list of poster places from doing events in our area years ago. Might remember Wild West Fest, a lot of posters going up then. So I did request for 50 posters. And I'm hoping that you, Kurt, could take some up into your area. If beside mailboxes, you can't put it on any mailboxes, but you can put it on the side of the newspaper stands that are out there. If there's a Hinterton Western News box, you can put it on the side of that. So I do have a number of locations and do need some volunteers to help with putting posters up on the 27th. I will fill in the blanks or fill in the spots if we can't get enough people to help out. I can do a little on the 25th, but it would be best to not have posters up about a survey if it's not actually live. So the 27th would be best. Outside of that, Facebook, I think we have, if everybody had a chance to look at the document I sent, the last page was, I think, 12 or 13 Facebook pages. So perhaps some of you are on those Facebook groups already, and it would be great if you guys could just repost what the RDOS posts. So I guess I'm just looking for some volunteers. You can contact me off on the side and help me out with posters and Facebook. But again, just back to the beginning or back to the end, whichever. I think it's about identifying those mediums that are most popular and getting a consistent message across all of them. And I think that between a poster, Facebook, and some email blasts that could go out through Skaha Matters, the Economic Development Office, Okanagan Falls Community Association, various groups such as the Lions, the Legion, Stratas, like the one that Ron just mentioned. There's a number of stratas that have their own. And I think at the last meeting, Doug Lychak also said that he does an email out to Lakeshore Highlands and Heritage Hills. And then of course, a press release, which the RDOS will do. And that will get to all of our print newspapers as well as all the online papers. And I think between all of that, I think it's with the plan that I sent out to everybody, I think we should be able to reach as many residents as possible with the simplest amount of manpower over a sequential number of days. And I think in the end, this will give us the most credible feedback desired. Does anybody have any questions?
Question, would we actually look for a story to get carried by Penticton Herald, Castanet, and possibly Penticton Now? In the past, when we've sought them out, Ron and I've worked on this a number of times, and they've picked us up and, run a nice little story. And I can see them, OK Falls finally gets its chance, do we want that?
I think so.
Any concerns with that? Okay. Okay.
Sorry.
I don't have any concerns with that. I just did want to make a comment about the Facebook pages for any of you, and I'm happy to post the ones that I happen to belong to that's on the list. There is a means after you post it to go back in, and the 3 little dots, you click on it and you can turn off comments. So you can do that. And so people are getting the information, but they're not necessarily able to engage in the lively dialogue that we have seen in some situations in the past. So, I mean, that's an option. Is that something that we want to do? I know when I was posting things on to Okanagan Falls News and Events, with the most recent information a couple months ago, I was turning off comments. Just so people were aware of the open houses and the panel discussion.
Mylene?
Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
My only concern with stories being written is who are they talking to? So when the regional district sends out a press release about this coming, they will have the contact information in that press release for them to follow up and talk to somebody. So I'll let Christy speak here.
Okay, go ahead, Christy.
So when we craft our info releases, we always put the contact person as our comm staff, but also lead. So the lead would be the chair of the committee. That's who's elected to speak on behalf. So any questions or comments or anything like that would be referred over to Matt or Matt's delegate.
Yeah, can I make a suggestion that it could be myself and or Kay?
Sure, we can put both names on there. And if you need, sorry.
Sorry, that was my concern about having stories written. If you have a whole bunch of different people giving the feedback to the writer, it could cloud what the actual message is. Sometimes they're fishing for things that are off of what the story actually is. So that's my only concern with doing the story is what is going to be the actual subject line, what is going to be this message. And I think if we're wanting to keep the message consistent, I think sticking with the press release, they'll pick that up and run with that, I'm sure.
Okay. So we don't need to have a contact in your view, is that right, Mylene? Okay.
No, I am saying you definitely have a contact.
Oh. Okay. So the message would be, fill out the survey. Fill out the survey, fill out the survey. Okay. Any other comments on this aspect of comms and marketing plan? Okay. I don't know. I don't think we need a motion in support of this. I think it's just, yeah, it's a tool. It's been developed. It's been discussed. As Ron noted, we have a meeting coming up June the 11th.
Fine, but I'm in the middle of a meeting. Can you call me back at
God, the power of the finger here. The Golden Hills, sorry, I can't remember, Strata contacted Ron, subsequently contacted me. And yeah, June 11th, he asked for an email because I said, could you just shoot us a quick email and requesting a presentation. So I don't know, is that something, Kay, will you be back by June the 11th? Is that something you'd like to do? You did such a great job. Sorry, I should back up a sec. For anyone who wasn't at the meeting last night, I think it was last night, Kay did a great job of presenting the PowerPoint slides that she put together, and I think she did a really good job, got a number of compliments, and yeah, I think it was very well received. So I think on behalf of the committee, I'd say thanks very much, Kay, for all the work you did and also the presentation.
Well, you're welcome. It was a bit of a labor of love. It became
yeah.
And lots of input and everybody working together to get the pieces. So I'm just double checking. I am physically back on the 10th. I'm just making sure that I haven't stacked up. No, the 11th is free. My question is some just basic logistic pieces around if I'm to do the PowerPoint presentation, do they have a PowerPoint projector and a screen? Is the smart board getting carted up there? Like how is that going to work?
Ron, you've been asking, I can answer those questions, but Ron wants to speak. So go ahead, Ron.
Well, two things, and it, yeah, sorry, Matt, I didn't mean to mow your grass. The meeting at the club room, and there is the smart board should be available, so that's really going to work well. But my reason for raising the hand first was I just wanted to repeat what Matt said to Kay, and I received feedback today, even from people who were not at the meeting, telling me what a great job you did. So you are being recognized, and you're likely going to get recruited to do more. So thank you.
Well, thank you for your kind words, Ron. That's much appreciated.
Just back on the logistics side of things. I had understood from Tony when he called that the meeting was at a home in their strata. He said it was a large room. And as I understood from him, they did not have technology. And that you would be speaking to, just paper handouts. But I could be wrong. And between now and June the 11th, I guess we'll figure it out. Ron?
Well, yeah, I spoke with Patricia just a couple days ago, and that information, I mean, because I asked where to go, and that's what I was told. And I'll double check myself, and maybe we can triple check. But it's a really convenient and suitable location. That club room is an amenity, belongs to the taxpayers, and that equipment serves that purpose. So if they'd rather do it in a home, it doesn't matter to me. But I just got that information from Patricia. So if I'm mistaken, then that's my mistake. So sorry.
Okay, no worries. To be determined, right, Kay? Good stuff. Anything else on communications, marketing, media? Okay, Mylene, thank you very much again for taking the time. Mylene had that thing prepared. I think actually she must have had that prepared beforehand because she actually got it to us that evening. So well done.
Sorry to interrupt. I just want to clarify the survey will end June 11th.
Well, I think we're saying it ends June 10th, but if this location, if we are receiving stuff on the 11th, I think it's likely that it's going to be received. That's what Christy said, as I understood.
Okay, in that case, I will leave it all as is then.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't think we want to change the dates.
Okay, sounds good.
The next question will be, can we go to the 12th? I just want to rehash next meetings. June 15th, initial results. And again, this is all subject to there not being another train wreck between now and getting the survey out the door. But June 15th, initial results. And again, let's not get too hung up on the data that we see then, because it will change. I think it's really getting our thoughts around how are we going to make our decision here individually. And then June 21, receipt of the final data and a recommendation as to the ultimate option for the boundary and whether or not to proceed with an incorporation study. So, Christy?
Sorry, just to jump in there, Chair. So typically what happens with these sorts of studies is, yes, the 21st will be the final decision. The committee will meet. You probably meet a little longer than normal. But typically then the chair and vice chair start to prepare the report and circulate it to the committee within a few days after. So everybody gets a final look at that. That's something you may want to consider doing. And then generally the chair and vice or one or the other presents to the board with, like I'll bring in my report, and then the committee, whoever you choose, if it's your chair, vice chair, will present that day as well. We're expecting that to be in July. So I guess what I'm saying is there probably will be a circulation of that report, I would imagine, after the 21st, because I don't think you'll be able to formulate that whole report on the evening of the 21st.
So we have a committee report and a consultant's report?
The committee will, yes, they'll make some, I'm certain you'll want to make some recommendations or responses based on that. Then I put forward my report as well. So it's a bit laborious, but it's important the board have all the information.
Okay. All right, I guess we'll learn more of that. So committee, be aware, you may be asked to look at a brief report that Kay and I have put together. Mylene, your hand's up.
I was just questioning about the date of the 21st being a Tuesday, whereas all our meetings are on Wednesdays. Is that correct? It would go Wednesday the 15th and then Tuesday the 21st?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and please, mark it into your calendars now. We'll say 6 o'clock. Let's mark it into your calendars. It'd be great to have everybody that's here present for both those meetings. Okay, Ron, did you wish to speak now, or do you want to let the public give us their comments?
Yeah,
Questions and feedback.
Go straight to the public, and thank you very much.
Okay.
And if I have something to say, I'll raise my hand, but I'm going to try hard to say nothing. Thanks.
Okay, public, members of the public, we really value your sticking with us and showing up and attending this meeting tonight and the meetings that some of you have attended on previous occasions. We would like to hear from you tonight, so I can work my way around here. Perhaps we start with John Dickinson. And don't forget to take yourself off mute, John.
Okay. Yeah, can you hear me now?
I can hear you fine.
Okay. No, I don't have any comments at this point, so just interested to see what's happening here. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. I've got a Karen Cathell.
I'm the same as well, just here to see what's going on. So no questions at this point.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Murray or Murray Gowers, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm just following to stay in touch with what's going on in Okanagan Falls and the area. A question, I attend these meetings, the last one, between last one, this one, it seems like you guys have met and had some discussions. Or is that other committees that you're on that you're talking about? It seems like a gap from the last meeting to this one. And you're talking about meeting last week, and I wasn't aware of that meeting. Or are these the only meetings that you are having and the public is able to attend them?
We did have a meeting last week. There were members of the public in attendance. And yeah, I know I've seen you at some of the meetings we've had in the past, and didn't see you the last time.
So the meeting was sent out the notice, and I sent a letter to the RDOS because there was no time on it. And I wonder what time the meeting was. I never did get a reply back. So maybe that's why I missed it. I don't know. I never did get a response.
Okay.
So anyways, just trying to keep in touch with things. Try to attend every meeting if I'm aware of it then. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Murray.
I'd like to look into that. I will, Murray, and get back to you to see what happened there.
Okay, and then we have Judy Garner, and we've actually received a letter from Judy. I don't believe we've responded as yet, but I know a response is in process. And Judy, did you have anything you wanted to say? Got to take yourself off mute, Judy.
No, Matt.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Finished in a couple of minutes.
All right, Ron, you're our director. We try to give you space at the end of every meeting to share with us points that you feel are relevant relative to what we're working on at the time or the larger picture. So go for it.
Yes, thank you, Matt. And I just want to say thank you to everybody for a good meeting. I really appreciate all the work and how these last few meetings are becoming more interactive. Lots of participation, lots of sharing, lots of ideas. To quote Bob Daly, I think people are very respectful, and it's noted and appreciated. I really think that's fantastic. I'm seeing it. I love it. And just in case you're wondering what I'm doing when I'm not talking, I move my mouse around with my little hand and I smack some of the people on the face on the screen. So thank you. Those are my comments.
Okay. Well, I think that, sorry, I've got a comment from Kurt. Go ahead.
So I'd just like to extend an invitation. We always meet in a formal setting, and we take our turns, and we do a good job of conducting a very formal meeting. But I'd like to extend an invitation to my place. I talked to Christy about this to make sure that it wouldn't be in any conflict, and with Ron as well. Sometimes when I guess when some of the board members get together and there's enough of them to make a quorum, it's questionable whether it's a formal meeting or not. But I would like to extend an invitation to all board members, all RDOS participants and our consultants to have just a tea and coffee and biscuits at my place one evening in the next week or so would be great. Maybe next week at some point, if somebody wants to suggest a date where we can just get together and throw some ideas around and meet each other face to face, which we don't often get to do. And in a non-formal setting where we can have opinions that aren't on the record, or questions that just take a little more expansion, and we can talk one-on-one rather than going around the room. We can just have a nice social discussion. So I'd like to make that invitation. I'm thinking something, the same type thing, 6 to 8. My place, I'm at the top of Carmi, 3022 Carmi Road. And I'm open to dates. I won't be home. Monday night is the only one I won't be home next week. But if we could find a day that suits the majority of people next week, I'd enjoy hosting you.
I think that's a great offer. And the people can go to the mountain. Is that right, Kurt?
The people can go to the mountain. Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right, Ron.
I just want to add on to that, Matt, and say thank you to Kurt. And, if it's permissible, I will be there, and I would encourage everybody, if you can, to be there. I met Kurt on September 21, 2018. I was campaigning for this office. I reached out through Johnny Angies to see if there was a community group. He connected me with people. The meeting on September 21 was at Kurt Hebert's house. I remembered it was my son Jacob's 19th birthday, and I missed a family dinner because I asked if I could attend. It was hard for me to say, no, I can't come on that day. But that's where I met Kurt. And I think this has high value because I've been there. It's a beautiful home. No, that's not the reason. I've been there, and I think what's really important is a lot of us don't know Upper Carmi. And when you drive up that hill and you look out at the view, you will get an understanding of Upper Carmi that you may never have had before. And when I went there, I found the people were just like the people in my neighborhood. They were just as grumpy and old and had the same concerns and the same complaints. And it was we have a lot in common. And so I just love that invite. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll be looking for the guys with the smile. So any other comments before we draw this meeting to a close? Seeing here. Vi, are you trying to say something or not? You got to take yourself off mute, Vi.
Okay,
There you
Hear me?
go.
yeah.
Yep.
Did we determine a day?
No, we didn't. I think somebody's going to try to arrange something for next week.
Okay.
Is that right?
Yeah, I'll just send out a quick email to everybody and then they can throw out which dates works, and whichever day seems to have the most numbers, we'll just have to go with that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, I was working on that assumption, but should have stated the obvious.
I'm looking forward to getting up to Carmi actually. Thank you.
Okay. I'll take a motion to adjourn if we're done. Made by Kurt. Can I have a seconder? Seconded by Kay. We're adjourned. Folks, thank you all very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Bye-bye.